hoping it would be done earlier, but I'm going to go close the door.
This is how it is today on Pop Culture Minefield. This is how it is today. Today on Pop Culture Minefield.
Okay, I'm trying to do the promotions that we're live now, and I'm on my own for everything. Okay, I'm even late. All right.
I'm
live now.
doing that.
I'm doing it now. That. Well, it hadn't been done, so I was doing it now. So, good morning, everybody.
I'm late.
Today is the official day of Put Your Thing Into Things, Tunnel Day.
Oh my God, what did I walk into?
This, of course, is the famous tunnel that was dug by Hogan's Heroes. Yay. Man, oh man. I hate that.
I got rid of the moniker. It kind of disturbed me.
Oh no. That's sad. We're gonna miss Kristen Stewart.
Oh no.
Just like the way we miss her in real life.
Still get Kristen Stewart.
Oh, okay.
I just lost the whatever it was below my name. Below my name. Also, Kristen Stewart. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody.
We're going to talk about this. Welcome to Military Monday. We're going to talk about the greatest rescue operation in history, conducted by none other than the puny, lowly forces of the Israeli Defense Force. Which are currently occupying the greater Israel, as everybody thinks. I saw that meme and I was like, it's just pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. Not really, but pretty accurate. I just thought it was funny.
Did somebody actually put a meme of that?
Oh, dude.
That they're occupying?
They took... Do you know the greater Israel map from from the Bible? There's an attachment, an addendum to the Bible, or at least the Old Testament, that has maps of the estimated territory of King David's end of reign, which is the largest amount of territory gain. And it's pretty big, but it's like, let's call it what it is. It's about half of Utah. So
holy shit.
Not that big. Not that big.
Well, the funny thing to me is, Israel as it stands now is like the very tip of the pinky toe in the Middle East, this little tiny sliver.
Yeah. Somebody said it's about the size of New Jersey, relatively speaking.
It's so tiny.
It's a little bit bigger than that, but yeah.
And nobody can stand that the Jewish people have a state.
Yeah.
It's just this little tiny sliver. But oh well. What are you gonna do? Go to war?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Oh man, it's good to see you, Mephisto. I guess Joe's not going to make it today.
No, he said so. He has too much work before Christmas.
I
He'll be back next week.
Good for him.
Yeah, that is a good problem to have.
Wish I had that problem.
Yeah. I have to be
You
back tomorrow.
and me.
I have to go back to work tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to it.
I would love to have had that many commissions. I didn't get very many this year.
That sucks.
Oh well. Yep. It's gonna
It's
be
the
a tight
economy.
Christmas.
When the
I know.
economy is tight,
So I will point out that I really do. There were two movies that were made and released in '76, which is The Raid on Entebbe, which is one with Charles Bronson, and I forget what was the other one called.
Flight to
The
Victory,
Victory.
something like that. Yeah.
Victory.
victory at
Entebbe.
Entebbe.
Victory at Entebbe. That was it.
Vigorously at Entebbe.
They have a
Both made
newer
so
film.
close after it happened.
They have a newer film that was made in '18 called 7 Days in Entebbe. But I heard it's fairly. I mean, if you think these movies were inaccurate, it's even more inaccurate. My only complaint about this film, I told to Anima.
Yeah, there's an Israeli film that is called Operation Thunderbolt.
Yep.
In English, but it's whatever the translation it is in Hebrew. Where they're all Israeli actors, everything, and I think one or two maybe American actors that filled in for the ambassador. It's been a long time ago since I've seen it, but it's and we kind of talked about it. You know, I don't remember if it was on a show or off the show. There's a canon film that is called Delta Force. And in Delta Force, you basically had the Entebbe rescue, just with way more action.
I haven't seen that movie since the '80s.
It stars Chuck Norris
Mhm.
in the kind of the same role that James Woods had in this movie, kind of. And it had Lee Marvin in his last movie appearance that I remember. And he's like one of the bigger generals. And I have refreshed myself on the historical operation today. And then I actually saw the raid on Entebbe. And there's a massive difference between what happens in the movie. Well, not massive, but a big difference between what happens in the movie and what really happened.
Well, they let a lot of things lax in the making of the film. This is, I consider this the better of the two films. But God, it got a great cast in both films. You got Burt Lancaster, Richard Dreyfuss, Anthony Hopkins in the other version. And this one, you've got Peter Finch, which this was, I do believe this was his last film before he died. Because he died in 76, 77, right in that window.
Mm-hmm.
I think he died before it got released. You got Martin Balsam, Yaphet Kotto as Idi Amin. I mean,
that was a perfect casting.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
He was so good in this part. He made Idi Amin scary as fuck. Because Idi was very fucking scary dude. Then you got Horst
He
Bokos,
was nuts.
who plays the terrorist Wilfred Bose. And Bose, despite being a villain, they're going to show the scene in the film, but they got it wrong. They got it completely wrong.
Can I say something about his name real quick?
Yeah.
Because he's
evil,
German,
right?
and his last name is Böse, and Böse means evil.
Yeah, evil.
I found that funny that a terrorist would have a name like that.
Ironic is what that is. Ironic. But the thing is, oddly, of all of them there, he's the one that I do believe that Daniel Cooper is what he's named in this, but he actually had a different name. They didn't use his real name. Is the one who was in Auschwitz or one of the concentration camps. And when he confronts them the first time, he really did do this. He came up to him. They were wanting their names and everything, and he pulled his shirt down to show that he had the tattooed numbers on his arm. And one of the terrorists shot back to him, "We are not Yahtzees. We are not." Got really angry at him for showing him that number. And
there's a reason for it, but yeah, it's
yeah, because they were separating them just like they did at the train stations.
No. I mean, hold on. Just I have to answer this.
He's on his dating app right now.
It is WhatsApp. It is WhatsApp, but it's the first work-related WhatsApp message that I got around this time. I never get them. It's either way too late when I'm asleep or way too early when I
before you wake up, or just waking up.
Yeah.
By the way,
All right,
Hallowfield is here. Good morning, Hallowfield.
The whole political situation is something that if you just watch this, you have a little bit of disconnection, because why do radicals from Germany are associated with the PLO? And people and they even say that they like the Che Guevara freedom, blah 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 blah. Now,
those are fascist, communist freedom fighters.
It's not fascist. It's like radical. It's literal radical communism. And in the movie itself, they kind of touch upon it, but it's kind of forgotten after a second. Is the fact that I think it's Cooper, the main dude of the main
Daniel
dude,
Cooper.
He says to him, "Well, it's pretty nice to be a freedom fighter behind the gun." I was like, "Yeah, like really." It's all cute and everything, but you're behind a gun and a grenade, talking peace and
justice
and freedom and all that stuff. So that's all. Like goes back to like the old Carlin joke with, what do freedom fighters fight? Well, they fight freedom. They don't fight for freedom. They fight freedom.
Freedom. Yeah.
And that whole deep radical communism, attaching themselves to any they attach themselves to any radical cause. They were really. Do you remember the International or Internacional? They're all like radical communists. They're crazy. The assassin Carlos was always attached to them. They were attached to the IRA or the Sinn Féin, basically the IRA. They were attached to any radical group. The red shirts in Italy, they were some of the more radical groups in Czechoslovakia, where they were helping the government rather than fighting against the government because they were both aligned to the same cause. And they helped put down a lot of these Eastern European revolts that happened throughout the 60s, 70s, that most of Americans never heard about. But it was like, remember the Rose coup in Ukraine back in whatever times, like recently, like 15 years ago? It was that sort of a thing, but it was put down like viciously. Hungary was put down viciously. I think it was 65, 67.
People think that communism ended with the fall of the Iron Curtain. It's like, no, man, it's going to keep trying to rear its ugly little fucking head.
They're still out there. They're just...
And people are stupid enough to believe, no, this time it's going to work. It never did.
Yeah, it never works.
It's hidden in plain sight. And throughout, like, if you look at entertainment, throughout history, there have been shows that kind of dealt with that sort of dark underworld of either do you know the term champagne communists, right?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So there are champagne communists and there are champagne fascists. I hate to call them Nazis. They're not really Nazis, but they're like ultra racists, ultra dictatorship bound kind of people. So we'll call them in a general sense fascist, and we'll call the other side communists. But they're radicals of like tree hugging radicals aligned with radical Palestinian groups that are, in a sense, jihadists, but their touch with the Islam is on paper, not really, it's not really Islam. It's so far gone. It's so radical. It's insane. And all these groups around the 70s were really big into disrupting and undermining, and you never know where they got their funding from. We don't know how the PLO got funded, really, apart from maybe the international. So it's the conglomerate.
By the way,
of
I do want to point out
amorphic thing.
you
yeah.
you just brought up the PLO, and Yaphet, what's his name? The head of PLO,
Yasser Arafat.
Arafat, that's it. Yasser
Yeah.
Arafat sent his attaché there, and they refused to see him. The terrorists refused to speak to him.
Yeah, I know.
And that blew
'Cause-
my mind. I remember when that happened.
Because they were using the PLO name, but they were not PLO, really. PLO was, and still is Yasser Arafat. It is him. All the other groups are like radical. They're not even offshoots. They're opposing each other. Like if you hear in the news, you say Hamas or the Jihadic Islam or whatever. These are two separate groups. The Jihadic Islam as a terrorist group, not the overall thing. There's a group called that. They're more radical than Hamas. Hamas doesn't really support Sharia law as you know it. The Jihadic Islam is. And it's not Shiite or Sunni. They're Palestinians, basically. Or an offshoot of whatever you want to call Palestinians. It try to get to the bottom of who is against who is absolutely insane. So when we say Israel versus Palestine, Palestine is so fractured and so like it's an amorphic people. Like I wanted to say this for a long time. The people themselves are pretty decent, hardworking people. Most of them do. You're muted, Gerry. You're muted, Gerry. There we go. No, still muted.
No, he's fucking around now.
Okay. He's not.
Oh. Jump
anyways.
out and then jump in again? Not of the chair.
Dude, don't kill my fiance, okay? Don't give him stupid ideas.
I'll continue the talk because it does relate to this.
Yes, please.
So the Palestinian people, but the people themselves on the ground, we can't hear you, Gerry. Otherwise, I would have stopped talking. Are pretty hardworking, decent people. That's why it's a shame that I can't hear you. Stop making noises with your mouth. So it's quite a shame that they are the ones who are suffering because they don't really have guns. And
are they not allowed to?
No, they're literally executed if they own a gun.
Oh, fuck.
Holy shit.
And when you say executed, you would think maybe shot. No. No. It is strangled. And then they're forced to, so they get strangled. They kind of die, but maybe not. and they don't use a rope, they use a chain, and then they take the chain and you put it on behind the bike, and they take the bike and do a ride down middle like a Gaza Avenue.
God,
All right, can
that's
you hear me
So
now?
yes,
Yes.
you can.
What do you
So
know?
that
Martin was
everybody
right.
knows not to mess
NVIDIA
with
crashed.
whoever has the gun.
That
So
is
the
not
funny
funny.
thing is I was getting ready to make a joke because you used a big word, and I asked, "What do you mean?" And then you were supposed to say, "What do you mean? What do I mean?" And then I say, "What do you mean by this big word?" Like I don't know what it means. It's
What do you
just,
mean,
anyway, it's
big
a
word?
stupid joke. Yeah. So anyway, I forgot what big
Anyway.
word you used. So fuck you, Mephisto.
Yeah, fuck you too, buddy. The whole point is the
I
fact
liked
that
it better when we couldn't hear Gerry.
I do want to
the
read
fact
this
that-
to you. I want to read this. This is one thing I wanted to read
Sure.
because I found the article, and here it is. On June 29th, after Ugandan soldiers had opened an entrance to a room next to the crowded waiting hall by destroying a separating wall, the hijackers separated the Israelis, including those holding dual citizenship, from the other hostages and told them to move to the adjoining room. As they did so, a Holocaust survivor, doesn't name who it was, showed the hijacker Wilfred Bose a camp registration number tattooed on his arm. And Bose angrily protested, "I am not a Yahtzee, I am an idealist." And I felt that that was such an important moment, and they didn't put it in the film. Because he actually did that.
I think they wanted to separate the Holocaust bit from the movie, but they did mention it a few times. So
They did. They absolutely did. They kept waiting in Berlin at the train station. You know, just they brought up all these things and they left out an actual thing that happened. And but at the end of the film, you know, there's that moment where he considers he has an AK-47. He considers using that and turning it on the Jewish people. And for some reason, he has a single moment of enlightenment and instead turns his weapon on the Israeli soldiers and is killed.
yeah, not something that technically happened, but it works well within the movie, and he even puts down.
Well, that was told by
grenades.
the real person. I forget his real name. That Balsam is playing, Daniel Cooper. His character is the one who saw it.
Yeah. All right.
And he said there was just this one moment in his life where he decided not do the wrong thing and just shoot innocent people.
Well, like I said, the movie does take a lot of liberties. So I haven't
Absolutely
gone into
does.
the hostage story. I technically I know of it because they did a whole documentary over here a while back. It's a 2-hour documentary. They've interviewed everybody except for one particular item that was missing that I've only heard about today. I know the person, and it's a year-old document that I've seen, and they said, well, they've only released the files a year ago, so it was super, super fresh, like 2022-ish. There was a man who went to Kenya to basically bribe off whatever military guy or whatever to secure safe passage in Nairobi and refueling. Otherwise, they would have been basically stuck in Nairobi. Basically.
Yeah. I do want to point out too, I have a couple of some photos here. This film is directed by none other than Irvin Kershner, the man who brought us The Empire Strikes Back, the single greatest Star Wars film ever made. Just a great director. And two of the technical advisors for the film were both former IDF soldiers. One not so well known, Shmuel Erdi, and Aaron Ipali is been in a lot of movies. In fact, the last thing I remember seeing him in was in the Mummy franchise, because he was always in the flashbacks to the past. And I've got a picture of him. You might remember him from the movie. That's him right there. He was also in the movie. He is the IDF soldier who starts singing on the airplane.
I told
Oh,
them, Alpha.
okay.
It has to be brought
This
up.
is him before he died. Handsome dude.
Reminds me of Michael and Sarah a little.
And he's not only in the film, he plays one of the soldiers. He is also one of the main technical advisors for military tactics of the IDF.
Never heard of him, but okay.
Did you never see the Mummy films? 99?
No,
all that?
you mean technical advisor in the IDF?
No, for
No,
the movie.
he
For the
served in
movie.
the IDF, and
Yeah.
he was the technical advisor for the film, and he's
Well,
in the
technically,
film.
There were so many people who served under the IDF. It's like I'm not going to say all of it, but most of the population has served in the IDF.
Yeah.
I don't know if it qualifies anyone to be a military advisor, but okay. I don't
So
know
here's a girl that was
everybody here,
everywhere
but
in the
yeah.
70s. She was in everything in the 70s.
Who? What? The kid?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Oh, I never remember her name.
Never
but
mind. If it's not famous, then I never mind.
she's not famous.
Oh, by the way, the chick that was on the plane, I don't remember her real name. She was nuts. Like, I remember
Yeah,
stories, like
the
hostage
terrorist.
stories. Like I said, from the documentary a while back ago, like 10, 15 years ago. Everybody said that from all the kidnappers, right? Arabs or German, she was absolutely she was sadistically insane.
Scary.
That's what I remember. She was the one who treated everybody poorly. Everybody, including Israelis, Jews, not like Europeans, whatever.
By the way, Stephen Mocht is the one who plays Lieutenant Colonel Yanni Netanyahu. And in this film, and then in the other film, it's Richard Dreyfuss that played him. And James Wood, he was still young when he was in this film. This is before he made it big. He plays Captain Sammy Berg, which is a central character in the story. And I like that they showed how they had to lie to their families. He told his family he's going fishing. I don't know what he did in real life as far as this, but they were told not to tell anyone where they were going.
Yeah, I don't think it was him, but there was another guy. I think it was one of the airplane pilots. His wife was in labor, and they let him go to join, and he went, and he came in. The baby wasn't born yet, and he was like, "Hi, I don't have a lot of time. Could you speed this up and do this quickly so I can get back? Because I'm needed." And he didn't tell her what it was for. And he said that his wife did it quick. And so he saw his daughter
Push
being
that baby
born,
out.
and he left. He saw his daughter born. He saw her crying, so she's fine. And then he left. And he couldn't tell his wife what or where or when he's coming back. Or what he's doing. But nobody told nothing. I think Bibi Netanyahu, our prime minister, who's the brother of Yoni Netanyahu, he said that he knew something is going on, but he didn't know what it was. Because he was in the army, I think, back then. but he was like a lieutenant. So if you were not in the know, you were not in the know. There was a strict need to know basis, and to be honest, if you know anything about it, like a small community or a small town, you know that secrets travel fast. It's the same with Israel. If you know a cousin that knows something, you know, okay? And it was kept so secret. Nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen real quick to show the real Netanyahu who was killed. And by the way, Peter Finch plays the part of Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah.
Another famous Israeli prime minister. There we go.
Yeah. The only prime minister who got assassinated.
There he is.
Yeah.
That's
There's a better
Yana.
picture of him.
It's the only
You're
one I've
right,
seen.
11.
I'll bring it up.
You are fucking right.
The only reason I'm against that is I can't stand Richard Gere. I think he's a scummy person. You actually had a future prime minister in this too. What's his
Shimon
name?
Peres. Shimon Peres.
Menachem Begin.
Oh, yeah. Well, technically.
Begin is in this. And of course, you know, I just forgot his first name. Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel.
Bibi.
Yeah, Bibi.
It's Benjamin, but it's
Benjamin.
Bibi.
He is the brother.
Yep.
Here's another one of the Israelis who was killed. Actually, both of them were killed. She's the one famously who choked on a chicken bone at the airport, and they had to rush her to the hospital.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they don't mention she just disappeared. Nobody saw her again. That's not true. Within 3 years, her body was recovered. She was in the hospital being treated, and Idi Amin was so angry of what happened here that he ordered her execution. And they dragged her out of the bed and shot her to death. And any of the medical staff who tried to defend her were also killed by the Amin's forces.
Yeah, but he just stated 3 years later her body was found. This movie was made the year this happened, so they really didn't know. And they didn't want to edit it.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that they
back
didn't
then
know,
they-
and 3 years later they found her.
And back then, they kind of expected anyone who's been in, like, going to the hospital, that's a big no-no, even for, like, terrorists. Plus, it was
For them to be separated.
it was under Idi Amin's care, so they didn't expect that to happen.
That phrase sounds almost like an oxymoron. Idi Amin's care.
Yeah,
Yes, but you have to
difficult
remember
to phrase
something.
it like that.
And it's in the movie itself. He was perceived to be a benevolent, not a dictator at all. He was supposed to be a benevolent ruler, and all they knew about him is the fact that he likes the camera and he is for show and everything. That was known. They did not know what was happening in his country back then. Absolutely.
Or that he had a
not.
god complex.
Yeah.
They show it with Yaphet, Kotto, I'll tell you that. Now, Victory at Entebbe is the other film. And I'll scroll through it. It has some cool... they both had great posters, but I think this is the better of the two. Because it doesn't focus on the movie stars. It focuses on the action. And it was one of those big moments also for the C-130, which is a great airplane for the military. You got Linda
Still in
Blair in
use.
it. You got Helmut Berger playing the part of Wilfred Bose. Kirk Douglas is in it. Dreyfus plays Netanyahu. Burt Lancaster plays Shimon Peres. Just what a cast. Anthony Hopkins as Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah, but he was that movie was really like low budget TV movie. You could tell.
It really was. This film, and I do want to point this out. This film, when it was made, this one was $3.5 million. What is that to today? That is a practically a $19 to $20 million film budget. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And that's why they show the destruction of the MiGs. It's much better. And you've got a great director.
Consider that in TV, the budget was impressive.
Although the actual destruction was a little less glamorous. They didn't use like rockets and shit. They used explosives. They couldn't get a Jeep with a rocket launcher on top of it there. They had a lot of limits in terms of how much they could carry. The real operation is, it's not a miracle that they actually landed and saved everybody. It's the fact that they made it like from the original airport to the air. Because what happened was, back then we still had the Sinai Peninsula under our territory. So Sharm el-Sheikh, which is a quite little tourist town in the Sinai desert or the peninsula,
right?
And we had a base there, an air base. So they flew over there and they waited for that call to like go, and they loaded up the plane with 40,000 pounds extra fuel just to make sure they could get there. And they had to fly under the radar, and they flew at a certain point. They flew about 30 feet off the water. The problem
to avoid radar.
The problem was not flying that low, is to get up in the air. The air was too hot, so they couldn't get a lift going with like 40,000 pounds extra weight. That was the issue. And when they were flying above the water, it was such a bumpy ride. A lot of them said it was the most horrible 3 hours in air that they've ever gone through ever in their life.
Now, in the film, they make a comment that their goal was to try to blend with regular air traffic so it might confuse the enemy. But I do believe that because of the flying low, they weren't picked up on a lot of radar.
Yeah, because on one side they had the Saudi Arabia, and the other they had a few outposts that is like Egyptian-controlled outposts. And then
that's Netanyahu again.
Yes, that is the most famous picture of Yoni Netanyahu. That's
a good-looking kid. And in the film, it shows him die on the C-130 when, in fact, he died on the airfield.
Yes.
And it was a body recovery when they took him on the plane.
Yeah.
They did that for dramatic reason. I wish they hadn't. They should have just been realistic and stuck to their guns.
Yeah, his death was really...
There's the psycho.
Yeah. She was a real bitch. Like a real bitch. In real life, I mean. In this movie, not so much. She doesn't have too many lines. They don't put an emphasis on her that much. There's a point where she's like outside guarding when it was kind of reported that she never left the hostage site for no reason. She was...
Well, they got a lot of things wrong like that, because they show at the end, they show the commandos going into the building and up the stairwell. And that didn't happen. What happened was...
Yes, it did, but not like that.
When the IDF soldiers asked, where are they in Israeli Hebrew, and a bunch of them pointed to the extension of the airport that goes to the tower. They pointed that they went through those doors. And the IDF soldiers threw grenades into the hall, and right after they exploded, they burst in and shot the last 3. And that was where they were killed. They're all killed. So I remember reading all on the ground floor. So you said some of them did go upstairs?
I hear you.
No, I'm asking, did you read somewhere where they did go upstairs?
Yes. I literally today. The hostages, after they cleared the floor, the hostages said they're upstairs, and they went upstairs, and they were met with light gunfire, but they didn't want to take a chance, so they had to use the grenade. But at that point, something that is not in the movie itself, at this point, there is a massive firefight going outside of the main hangar.
And that was with the Ugandans. Yeah.
That was Ugandan soldiers, and they were in outposts where it was so dark they couldn't see where the outposts were. So they just peppered it with gunfire, and they had some RPG rockets that they've used like here and there, because their intel was that it is booby trapped. That's in the movie, but it was real, but they couldn't find it. It was a lie, because it was a perpetuating lie of Idi Amin, that he can't control these people. I'm trying to negotiate. That the whole bit in the movie that was done so well to portray the fact that Idi Amin was portraying one thing to the hostages and
to the media.
And kind of it is a reflection of what he did to the media rather than the full hostages, because evidently he was there just the one time, not several times, just the one time. And he mostly it's a reflection of what he said to the media. I'm going to try and help, blah, 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 blah. But he was definitely, he knew exactly why they were there and supported them and everything.
And he really did, because I've read the reports on what he did there. He supplied them with food and wanted to support what they were doing, because he hated the state of Israel. Idi Amin was an evil motherfucker. And I think one of the best moments with Idi Amin and Yaphet Kotto in the film that shows how scary he is when he is questioned by one of the passengers. And I don't know if this really happened at all, but I wouldn't be surprised that he took offense to some peasant talking to him. He says, "Who are you? Who are you? I am the president for life of this country. I was put here by the will of God." And it's a creepy fucking scene. It is. It's a crazy scene.
That is very dictator of him.
Very dictator of him.
What's with the background noise?
Is that you, Mephisto?
Me?
Yeah.
Sounds like someone's gambling or something.
Oh.
That's me.
There's a game running in the background, and it's going AFK, so it gives me the do you really want to keep playing? No, I'm good.
So I do want to point out again that this was Peter Finch's last film, and of course he's playing Rabin in this.
It's so crazy.
Robert Loggia is in this.
Robert Loggia, yeah, and the other guy, I forgot his name, who played Motagul. He's also like pretty famous. I don't remember where. Like, he's been in everything that I remember, playing the old man. But yeah, Peter Finch just released like a month before I checked. He was on Network doing the whole.
That was his next to last film. Mad as hell, and I ain't gonna take it anymore.
I'm not gonna take it anymore. Fucking
Yeah.
fantastic.
By the way, we have Robert Loggia, so I have to play this video. I'm sorry.
That's Robert Loggia.
Can you spell that for me?
Certainly. R as in Robert Loggia. O as in, oh my God, it's Robert Loggia. B as in, by God, that's Robert Loggia.
So Robert Loggia.
Yep. And you got Jack Warden in this too. That was two guys that actually went out for a lot of the same roles, Jack Warden and Robert Loggia. Now here you see the Orthodox Jews. And were there more of them there, or was just
There
this
were
few?
a couple. There were probably a couple. Like I don't know the exact makeup, but if it's an airplane coming back to Israel from either the UK, France, or the United States, you're bound to have either a family or a couple, like a couple of men. You are definitely about nowadays even more, but back then at least a couple of them.
And you can always recognize them by their attire. They wear the derby style hat and have the locks down, which is something that starts in youth, right? With young boys, they begin growing locks
from 13. Yes.
Yeah.
As soon as they get their manhood or bar mitzvah.
Bar mitzvah. Yeah.
They're supposed to. And by the way, that attire is mostly related to not to Ashkenazi, but more focused on Lithuanian. It's more of a Lithuanian way of dressing up, and then it's spread to Eastern Europe. And then when we got to Israel, then they kind of are the more strict version of Judaism, and the Sephardic Jews, which are the typically less strict, they kind of got along because the whole European versus Arab, because that's where kind of Sephardic came from, more of an Arab countries. They always had that complex of the European Jews are more superior or elitists to the Arab, more, that's a whole thing. But yeah, it's sort of like blacks and whites, but in a very Jewish way. It's a very internal racism kind of a thing. Because
interesting.
There's no original country. We all came from different countries. There were no country to there was no motherland or fatherland. Oh my God. There was no fatherland until there was one, which basically started by Russian communists. I'm not even joking. Kind of. The first settlements here were basically Russian Jews that are communists. That started, they were Bolsheviks. Now they're like Jews because the Bolsheviks kicked them out.
Well, here we go. 11 Alpha says some of the Orthodox were not Israelis, but American and Belgian Jews. So.
There were some Belgian Jews, mostly in the gem and diamond industry, which they still are.
The scary part is also this kid. That was like fucking crazy, the way he marches in and salutes and shows good form. I'm like, holy shit, that was crazy.
Oh, the whole Idi Amin part was done almost to the T. It is scary accurate.
Yeah. And I felt this film did a much better job. Julius Harris played Idi Amin in the other film. Good actor, but he did not nail it the way Yaphet Kotto did.
I think in this one, it was probably written better, perhaps because they had more funds. I had no idea.
They had a great budget. I could not believe when I read how much of a budget they had. Both of these were made for TV movies. And you see every penny in this movie. It went into the production value.
Wait, was this made for TV too?
Both were.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Competing networks.
That's why the budget
this
was
looked
such a surprise for me, because that's a lot of money for a TV movie back then.
Plus the quality, the film quality compared to
The movie stars involved with both is mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to realize how extraordinary this whole operation was. It is unheard of. First of all, back then it was completely unheard of. But even today, in today's standards, is pretty much never been attempted before on both sides. Because after this point, there was a series of hijacked planes in the 70s. So one of them, we actually...
Which they were still treating at that point as air piracy, which they bring up several times in the film. It's air piracy.
They mention it. There were a couple of planes that were hijacked. One of them landed, and there was another military excursion going in, but they lost the element of surprise at one point. So a lot of hostages got killed. I think it was around 8 or 10 of them got killed just on a crossfire. I don't think soldiers die, but definitely hostages. So when they mentioned it in the movie that what do you expect? It was like around 35% casualty. They knew going in, they might need to pick up bodies and stuff, and they trained for it. And you can see it in the movie. They definitely trained for it. Like I said, I saw the documentary. They definitely trained for it. They were up for like 24 hours, 36 hours, then rest, then another 36 hours. And it was like, okay, we're going to sleep on the plane. Like I said, on the takeoff, at least for 3 hours. They couldn't fall asleep, nothing. And then they had a little bit of a rest. But yeah, they were definitely up against the clock. But from that moment, when Entebbe happened, there was no plane hijacks. None. That involves Jews. There was one, I think, another Air France one, but I think it was a couple of people, and I probably get my my information wrong, but there was no air hijacking anymore. I think it was one that was still on the ground, and they took care of it.
They also misrepresent something that occurs in the firefight, in that the 19-year-old French immigrant that was moving to Israel, when he jumps up excitedly that they're being rescued, he is accidentally shot by Mookie, what is his name?
Mookie Betts?
Betzer is the one who accidentally shot the 19-year-old because he looked like one of the terrorists. He was in the right age group, and when he stood up, fucking hippies, man. He stood up when they said to shut up, and got blasted by one of the IDF soldiers. Well, one of the officers.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the movie, they depict like the operation being greenlit once they are on the air and midway. Is that how it really happened?
No, they flew down while there were a lot of deliberation. By the way, there were a lot of not open, but very closed deliberations. In that room where you see them, everybody shouting, that wasn't just the one time. It was like in a span of 48 hours, they convened like 4 or 5 times, and they couldn't get anything going.
And that's why I believe that running anything by committee is a terrible fucking idea. You have one person in charge, and that person is the one who should make the decision.
It's a war. Within the bylaws of how the government should work. There is a security cabinet built out of such and like the opposition leader has to be in there, the defense minister, and whatever ministers are in because of trying to form a coalition for the government, not for an operation for like regular operations. And it could be from 5 to 7 other ministers in that cabinet. And to get a decision, usually it's unanimous because mostly stuff kind of rubber stamped. But when it comes to this kind of operation, there were a lot of deliberations, international diplomacy. What happens if everybody gets killed? What happens if Egypt suddenly attacks? All that stuff. They went through all of it. And it's still going on today. Just it's a bigger cabinet today, I think. It's about 10. It's insane.
I also love, by the way, how they built this airport for the film.
They did? Wow.
Yes. Very well done.
Yeah.
The budget, like I said, for this film, absolutely you see everything on screen. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these actors went for cut rate just to be in this movie because it was such a big event that year.
And just to finish up the question, they flew down to Sharm el-Sheikh without needing any approval because it's a military base. They didn't need. Look, they don't need a government approval to fly from Kentucky to Texas when it's from one military base to another. But they do need one to, like, okay, go into enemy territory because that's a little bit more risky. Let's just say that. But yeah.
And by the way, one of the reasons why I think the 19-year-old French kid was killed was because the IDF were yelling in English and in Hebrew, and only in English and Hebrew, and he probably didn't understand what they were saying. Stay down.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. There was a lot. It was in the movie. It is depicted as, it's basically we're on the last minutes we're on the point of no return kind of a thing, and it went off. John Saxon is in this movie. Holy shit!
Yes, he is. He's one of the Israeli commandos.
Yeah,
he's one of the senior officers.
He is supposed to be the Air Force, commander of the entire force. He was not there. No, nor there was a plane flying up above like a command center. No, there were 2 Hercules planes. That's it. They were out.
Absolutely. In fact, here's a photo.
Yeah.
I want to show the photo because this shows also how accurate they were with the tower. But they did not build the area behind the airport like you see here. This is the actual airport. And look at all those bullet holes.
Yeah, it was a massive, massive firefight. And you can barely tell, but also if you can, just below where it says 33,789 feet.
Yeah.
Underneath, you can barely see it, but it's riddled with bullet holes.
Yep. Also, because you see the balconies have bullet holes, but it is the bullets that were being fired by the commandos up at the top tower is where they ran into problems. And that is what ended up, from what I understand, that's where Netanyahu was killed, was from that element that was hiding out up there.
Yeah, that's the story, but
I don't know what's true, but that's what
communications were really bad. Once the thing is this: they were traveling with that Mercedes. First of all, that Mercedes gave them a lot of issues because it was mechanically faulty.
Fucking German cars,
which is weird. And second of all, the point of where things started to go wrong is where that convoy went through out of the plane, and it went through a one dude's checkpoint. And James Woods' character, I can't remember what the name, But
Wood's
he was-
character, he plays the part of Sammy.
Sammy.
uh,
So
Sammy
Sammy was second in command, and Netanyahu had the silencer gun, and he was going to he kind of was on the way of saying, "Don't shoot him. We're just about to pass." And Netanyahu did shoot him, but he didn't kill him. So the guy took another, like, shot one more off, and they were traveling with the convoy was a truck, the Mercedes, and one truck behind them. And the one truck behind them started like shooting after Netanyahu shot, and they saw that the guy wasn't dead. And that kind of triggered everything off. Like the soldiers that were there heard gunfire, so they were ready for something. And once they saw the convoy coming in and stopping, and a lot of soldiers kind of running off, that's where the firefight started. And Netanyahu stayed out to command the firefight. And Sammy was the guy going in and doing the cleanup because that was his job. And Netanyahu was supposed to be out there, but they weren't supposed to do any sort of gunfight. And they talked about the fact that it was.
I'm going to take a pause.
Sure.
Go ahead. Finish.
I was going to say it was supposed to take, and it was very accurate in the movie, it was supposed to take 1 hour. They trained to do it in 58 minutes, even though in the movie it says 55.
Yeah, they trained for one fucking day over and over again, just like they showed in the film.
And they ended up going.
By the way, I want to point out the similarity of the training for this mission to what they did, the SEAL team did for the assault on the Abbottabad house for what's his name, the terrorist mastermind,
Osama.
Osama.
Osama bin Laden. So I saw similarities in that, so I just wanted to point that out.
All right.
Before we go any further, somebody brought up this film.
I was gonna say they were up in the air at 59 minutes.
59 minutes. That's crazy. Yeah. This is the made-for-TV movie, The UFO Incident, about Betty and Barney Hill. And you had Estella Parsons and James Earl Jones in these roles. And there was another film that came out that year. What a great movie. Even though the aliens
James
don't look
Earl
all that
Jones.
good.
Maybe that's why I got him the job.
It's such a good film. And who brought that up? I saw somebody said it. Who was that, Martin?
I'll be right back.
On it, National Trails.
National Trails. Thank you for bringing that up. Because that was another made-for-TV movie that actually had some money put into it.
Oh my God, he really left her on his avatar. Jesus.
Let her be.
Worst actor ever.
Oh, no. She's close, but there are worse. There are way worse.
Not many. She's right down there with them. Now we have to look at her.
Yes, Amin and Yaphet Kotto were both very tall.
What the hell?
And you know it's a true villain when he or she thinks that they are good.
Yes.
And what they're doing is the right thing. That's when it really gets dangerous.
When he said that he was put there by God himself, I'm like, holy shit, that's a scary dude.
Psycho.
Now this is the supposed Israeli friend of Idi Amin. And he's lying right to him.
What? Amin? Lying?
Yeah.
No. Really? Shocking.
And I do love that they show that they're listening in on the conversation.
I like that you see a lot of what's going on behind the scenes and not just what's going on.
The subterfuge. Yes.
Training and shit.
Because this is a political situation. Because this was a political situation. It had been building.
Absolutely.
And I do believe that it was because of this incident that we learned a lot about Idi Amin.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, thank God he's
And there's
back.
another film about him that's really good, is The Last Scottish King, with I forget his name.
Forrest
The guy with the
Whitaker.
wonky, Forrest Whitaker, the guy with the wonky eye.
Wonky eye. Oh my God.
Man,
He
that
did
wonky-
such a
that wonky eye is so good. He defeated Fast Eddie Felson in The Color of Money.
That's right. I like him as an actor. He's a very good actor.
He's very
and his
good.
little brother.
You
Oh my God. Did you see it in phone booth?
Ghost Dog is my favorite film with him. by
I
the
was
way.
just gonna say Ghost Dog is fantastic, and nobody knows that movie.
I know that movie. I'm a
Oh,
big
it's a
fan.
really
You
good.
know
I'm a
all the
big fan
movies,
of
Gerry.
John Sayles. I'm a big fan of the director of that, Jarmusch. I think Jarmusch did that one, right?
I think so.
Jim
Do you
Jarmusch.
remember I told you about my friend who was like who had an artsy fartsy mom? He was the guy that took me to that movie. He took me to all the like hippy dippy movies that nobody knows that were
Yeah.
really, really good. Like
That's
he
the
took me
one.
to-
It's Jim Jarmusch. Jim Jarmusch wrote and directed it. Yeah, I love that movie.
He took me to the movie Fresh. Do you remember that movie? With the 13-year-old kid who's traveling with he's running drugs in Brooklyn for these gangsters, and he's playing them off each other because he's just trying to survive.
I don't remember that.
I'll bring
Sounds
it up. You
interesting.
continue. You
Yeah,
continue.
find
I
out
don't wanna
find out what
derail.
film it is, because I might know the title. By the way, I
Fresh.
pause here for a second. That is Harvey Lembeck. I was a big fan of this guy. He always played the motorcycle gang member on the Beach Blanket movies from the 60s. And Harvey Lembeck plays Mr. Harvey in this film. And I don't know if he's based on a real person. I'm assuming probably. But, so many actors probably, I think, paid their way into this movie because it was so important a film to them. And he may have been one of the actors that paid to be in this movie. So what's this one?
It's called Fresh.
I've never seen this movie.
It's fantastic. It's pretty good.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
No, he's mocking the way I'm saying it.
Yeah,
Don't
Yeah, I
listen
said
to it.
fantastic.
Just ignore it. He's just being Gerry.
I'm being Gerry. What is it? The old man says in Hamlet, always to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And never be a beggar or a borrower be. Never a beggar or a borrower be. That was it. I swear to God, in that shot there, Loggia looked like Barney Miller.
The guy playing Shimon Peres kind of was a dick in the movie. Although in real life, he was kind of the guy leading the charge. And Rabin was really hesitant. Even though Shimon Peres was not really a military guy, he was like a born and bred politician. Like he was the politician. No matter if he was on top or not, he was consummate. He was really the one who pushes, or at least pushed to listen to the army guys and let them go, even though a couple of years before that they had that sort of catastrophe happening. And back then, Itzhak Rabin was, I think it was 74, right? So he was just going into his first term, and it wasn't really successful. They didn't finish the 4 years. He had a lot of internal opposition, and then somebody leaked this something that his wife might have had before they went in. It was a big scandal back then, where today there's an even huger scandal going on right now, and nobody gives
Huge.
huge.
It's a huge.
Our good friend Nick Weiser, wherever you are, we love you.
Love Nick.
But yeah, he's back then. Any like small scandal was like being blown up to insanity, and one of those things were the Orthodox Jews, because it was not allowed to do any work on a Sabbath, let alone sending troops anywhere when it's not wartime.
Yeah.
That's why it was so important to have the opposition leader accept. And it is in the movie, and it was very prevalent. And they really wanted to avoid actually talking to Begin, because first of all, they did not like each other. It's not in the movie.
I'm not surprised because
they did not like.
They refer to him as the
whatsoever.
opposition. They refer to him as the opposition government.
No, he is the. That's how it works over here. It's not called right. Well, it is right and left, but when you're in the government, you are in the coalition. When you're not in the government, you're the opposition. And there's a role called the chairman of the opposition. It's picked by the parties that didn't go into the coalition. It's an actual role in law.
Interesting.
So it's like in the House, it's like the minority leader. There's an appointed minority leader, right? There is the Speaker of the House. He's what, number 3 supposed to be, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this. Is there a Speaker of the Senate?
Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House is he from the Senate or from the House of Representatives?
He's Speaker of the House is also referred to as the president of the Senate.
Okay, so we don't have that particular job, but the opposition leader is it's called the chairman of the opposition, and it's an actual role. And there is a chairman of the coalition who is not the prime minister, and he may or may not be a minister in the government. He is a part of the Knesset, which is our House of Representatives, the only one.
Oh, this is that scene. I'm going to pause it.
Okay.
This is a scene where, what's her name? Dora Block is choking on the chicken bone, and they rush her off in a Mercedes to go to the hospital because they didn't have an ambulance, apparently. But that's played by Sylvia Sidney. She is an old-time movie star. And as she got older, she ended up playing the part of Juno, the caseworker from Beetlejuice.
Oh,
that smoke through her throat. Yeah. Smoke comes rolling out of her throat. And ironically, she would die from throat cancer only a few years later.
Throat cancer shortly after Beetlejuice.
That's right.
Dark.
That's really dark. Yeah.
But she plays the part of Block in this, and she has, I consider it one of the worst deaths, a lonely death. Where, God, that must have been so horrifying to be dragged out of your bed and then shot to death.
At least it's quick, I guess.
So president, senator, is vice president of the U.S.
Shoot you.
The senior senator is the president pro tem. Okay. All right. Thanks, Alpha. Fuck you, Alpha.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't react. But yeah, like I said, it's really hard to compare our way of government to your way of government because we technically have I don't know how you call it, a democracy.
Yeah, democracy never lasts. That's why having a constitution makes us so different from any government in history.
Very difficult. The problem is this. It's very difficult to have a constitution here because you cannot have in the Constitution rights for Jews where 21% of the population is Arab, Muslims and Christians. It's extremely difficult to do.
That's why I think, citizen is a better word.
And the problem is it's supposed to be a country for the Jews because of the right of return, where you can basically be born in Alaska as a Jew to a Jewish mother, and you have no connections to the state. But then suddenly when you're 18, you're like, I want to join the IDF. I'm going to do Aliyah, which is going up to. It's always up. When you go up to the state of Israel, it's going up. When you leave, it's going down. It's elevated, whatever. It's an old term. It's because Jerusalem was a city up on the mountains. So you're always going up to Jerusalem. Yeah. Anyway, the whole point
I want to point out another actor in this that you've seen a lot of in this film. He does get killed. He plays the part of Eli Melnick, who dies at the airport, is Alan Arbus, that most people at the time knew from MASH, because on MASH he played Major Sidney Friedman, who's the psychotherapist who ends up helping Hawkeye in the finale. He was a constant person, character that kept coming back to the show. He was a psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist on the series of MASH.
Yeah, but I don't remember any other soldier getting killed. I think
only one soldier they only lost one soldier.
Yeah, and Netanyahu. One hostage, right? Just the one
No.
hostage.
No, there were multiple hostages killed.
Three hostages, yeah.
Oh, 3 hostages. Okay.
And Melnick was one of them. Okay. The 19-year-old and then another one.
But I think it's pretty good. You'd expect more collateral damage.
Yeah, like I said, they definitely talked the 35%-ish, which it's like scary to think about. It's 35 people. 35% is 35 people, essentially. And there were
but that's why they don't say people. That's why they go percentage, because that makes it less personal.
Yeah. But
it's also why in the military we're trained to refer to the enemy as tangos or bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And Charles Bronson's character was definitely not there. Definitely not.
Oh, General Shimon.
Yeah, Shimon.
Yeah, because they show him back at the command center in the other film, Burt Lancaster's character.
And the crazy part is he was kind of responsible.
There's John Saxon.
Yeah, he was kind of responsible in a way to other things, and he became the head of the army. I think when I was like 6 years old, he was the head of the army. He was the main guy, the main general.
Now, you brought up the writing earlier, and I did want to go over the writer for this film. Let me find it.
It's pretty good as a drama that is happening. Everybody has, like, when they're not talking about the operation, they do have a little bit of leeway of actual acting and stuff. It's, I did like it. I did like it because in a way, it's trying to give you facts of per se, but also being pretty dramatical when it comes to
and it's one of those things I agree with you on. Is like when you're going to make a movie about something, it's movie first, history second. Barry Beckerman is the guy who wrote the screenplay for this. Let me tell you who this guy is. He, as a writer, he worked with Burt Reynolds and with Charles Bronson as a writer. He wrote the script to St. Ives and to Burt Reynolds' Seamus. He didn't write a lot of films. He was mostly a producer. He was one of the producers for Red Dawn.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's who wrote this. And I noticed that they really did go out of their way to make sure that a majority of the people involved with the production were Jewish. I don't think that was accidental. That was just something that was
No,
important to them.
it's a personal thing. It's like
Yeah, very personal.
Who was the one leading the charge in Schindler's List? Well, it's Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg,
Yeah.
whose name means Play Mountain.
Yep.
And hence the movie The Devil's Tower in Close Encounters, where the UFOs play around the mountain.
Yeah.
I always thought that was funny because I knew that when I was 13. I'm like, oh, they played around the mountain. His name is Spielberg. So yeah, 11 Alpha puts it best. They have a parliamentary system in Israel.
Ramatkal means like Master General. So it's basically the head general of the army. But there is only one rank that is, it's basically, what can I say? 4-star general, but he has an additional, whatever, not star. Yeah. It's IDF chief of staff of sort. See, 11 Alphas just said it.
He knows his stuff.
He Googled it. Look, I'm so accustomed to like Hebrew terms. It's really hard to do the transfer on the fly. I don't here's my fingers. I don't use the Google while I'm on the show. I'm usually touching myself.
But we really needed to know that question.
Me too.
It's
Jesus
mostly
Christ.
just
Get a
scratching
room,
my
guys.
leg. Mostly scratching my leg. Relax.
Yeah, mostly. The thing is, what is the other time doing?
Scratching my balls.
Stop it, Martin. Stop it.
I'm always adjusting.
Adjusting. Exactly. And we'll call it adjusting. Hey, I'm a man. I'm sitting long time, and stuff snags has to be released.
Do I get this wine from every man that I have to do with now?
Yes.
Well, with every
Oh,
man
dear.
that still has their testicles, yeah, that happens to all of us.
Yeah, but not all of you brag and whine about it like Gerry does.
Oh my God, that expression's in Gerry's face.
He can't deny it. It's the truth.
Look, I'm not the one that gets called out for whining all the time.
It's just because you're stupid and an asshole calling me out all the time. That's your diagnosis,
Oh.
mister.
The sweet talk of the lovers.
Don't make me pull out the Kristen Stewart again.
Oh,
So there you
no,
go. 11
please
Alpha
don't.
is saying that he did not Google it, that he studied Israel military history or theory in college. My professor has commanded a mechanized infantry company in the 1973 war.
Nice.
But which side? The Egyptian side or the Syrian side?
I don't think it was Egyptian.
Ah. Man, I've heard so
And
many
then he
war
says,
stories.
Admittedly, I also know how to use Google.
Hey, look, 11 Alpha, kudos to you if you remember like 10% of what you've been told and supplemented with Google afterwards. Kudos, my man. Just taking the time to actually put down the stuff in Google to search for it is fine by my book. I mean, I just don't do it right now because if I start looking for stuff like the English translation of them, I would be lost looking. You would see me looking this way and not saying anything for the duration of the show until I find the answer. So it doesn't make of a good show.
By the way, good morning, Snorter Poopus. Good to
Hey,
see
Snorty.
you. Hello. I told you my dad volunteered to go to serve in the 6-Day War.
No, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I've also listened to a full rundown of the 6-Day War after I've heard the operation in Entebbe. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole today. I was doing something else while listening, but it was great.
It's fun doing research for this stuff. I like doing it,
Yeah,
especially when it's a historical event.
There's a lot that went into the operation that is they do show you a little bit, and it does reference real stuff that happened. Like one of the issues they had was they didn't know they were aiming for to land right where because it's an active airport. They were aiming to land in an hour where there were no more outgoing flights. And they thought, well, one of the issues is at night, they turn off the lights of the runway lights of the airport. So we might have to land blind. What they did was they actually invented a radar on the fly that sends pulses to the ground from the nose of the plane. And if it was one frequency, it would have been water. Another frequency would have been sand. Another frequency would have been rock. And then one of them would be road, like landable road. And that's how they thought they would aim themselves. And they actually did a full practice run with the head, let's say the pilot of plane number 1. And on the first run, they nearly landed on a fence.
Ouch.
So the fence of the airport. And then they adjusted the radar frequency, and they asked to do another practice run because it was in front of the whole brass, like the main top military guys. And on the second run, after they did the adjustment, they landed perfectly. However, when they actually got to Entebbe, the first plane, they saw that the runway lights were not turned off, even though the tower was calling for, like the tower was not calling for them because they were unscheduled flight, but nobody cared. But they didn't expect a military plane to land there. So the first plane was down, and then when the second plane went also down, the first plane already left in the middle of the runway. They threw a flashlight in case the shit would go down and the runway lights would have been shut down. The second plane went down. Nobody turned off the lights. It touched down, and then the lights were off. But the second plane already saw the flashlight that was left behind, so they knew they were still on track. But they were very lucky. Somebody keeps sending me messages. Holy hell.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I paused because I got a letter from Boundless Immigration. That's who's working with Anima and me.
Oh,
Okay, do you want me to continue?
Yeah, feel free to.
Sure. Keep rolling on the slideshow though.
Oh, it's not. It's nothing interesting. Okay, it was just a letter letting us know that they won't be printing and doing certain things for the next few days because of the holiday. All right.
well, duh.
Yeah. Anyway, in the movie at this point, there's a lot of like the John Saxon in the plane stuff, which supposedly was hovering above, not landing, even though, like I said, there was none. And Bronson's character in this command center, again, none of that happened. But I wanna move you back towards the start of the show where I told you there was a guy going to Kenya to bribe people. Now, I kind of alluded to the fact that it was a Mossad guy. It wasn't. It was Ehud Barak. Now, he was later on the head general, and then later on became the prime minister, but he was a very, very faulty prime minister. And he is a massive globalist right now. He is a massive like WEF guy. He's one of the first people I've heard. Like, have you heard of BlackRock by any chance?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
So when he retired from being a prime minister and went into the private sector, that's the first time I've heard about BlackRock. I am not even kidding. And I was like, "What's BlackRock?" Nah, it's a hedge. It's a hedge fund. What they do?
Right.
They deal with investments. It's like, okay.
Yeah, they invest in woke shit, is what they do.
No, they invest in everything. And never mind. You know, ESG, all that stuff. But yeah, that's the first time I've heard of a BlackRock is Ehud Barak. He was not a Mossad guy. However, there was a Mossad guy. Like I said, they only released it a couple of years ago. They did not have airfield reconnaissance of the airport, which was extremely important.
And they needed that. That's how they built the mock-up, was from photos that were taken in the air. And I'm surprised they didn't show that in the film.
Yeah, because it wasn't known how they got. They showed.
Well, they knew about the mouse hole in the wall.
Yes, but
so only way to do that is through surveillance, and they don't show that in the film. That always bothered me.
They did not know about the mouse hole.
You're saying they didn't know?
They didn't originally. They did not know about the mouse hole at all.
So the movie's full of shit there. Then
yes, it's only after it's testimony. It's only hostage testimony.
Damn.
Yeah. That's how they got to this film. Everything was witness like hostage testimony. The army guys did not talk to the press. What they know about the army side is what was in the news to like this press conference that was.
And by the way, we're doing this show today because it's celebrating the birth of the Mossad, who were founded on December 13th. I forget what year, 47? Is it 47?
I don't know.
I think it was 47.
I don't know, or I'm not allowed to say.
I think it was founded. I think they were founded the same year as the Exodus.
Probably. But the thing is, there was a Mossad guy in Kenya. What he did was he took a little biplane, small little private biplane, and the thing is, Nairobi and Entebbe are on both sides of Lake Victoria. So he went up, he flew over and did a full reconnaissance, and he said he had mechanical issues and he wanted to land. And they said, well, you can, no problem. And he went around once, took photos, and then he went around again. He said he had mechanical issues that he needs to do another run around. And after the second run around, he said, well, I got it solved. So I'm going to go head back to Kenya and just go back home. And they said, well, that's fine. Because they didn't expect like a little Cessna biplane to do anything wrong. And I guess it was pretty common. Again, it's not a huge little airport. It's not a military airport. It was an actual like civilian one. So they didn't
from what you hear on the news, the Cessna is prone to problems anyway. So it wasn't anything uncommon.
Yeah, it's a small little plane, but the guy managed to take a lot of really good like photographs of the layout of how it looks, where they can land, and that's how they build the mock-up. And that's basically the basis of the plan. It was just they didn't divulge that information until a couple of years ago, where they said, well, it's declassified. And they do not mention the name of the guy yet. I'm guessing he's either close to retirement or retired. So they,
Okay.
they don't want to divulge the name. If the guy asks, then they don't.
Okay, Sax is here, so
Hey, fuck
Hey,
you,
Sax.
Kara.
Oh, you always play the boring one, Martin.
he's the only one that is in this studio, and I cannot switch. It doesn't let me.
Okay.
Thank you, Stranger. I love you so much.
And the
Are you
rest
okay?
was silence.
Yeah. Are you okay there,
Famous
Gerry?
last words.
Yeah, I'm grabbing some photos.
Okay. Like the Mossad guy. I
Yes,
just thought
Lost Horizon. I forgot he was in that remake. Yeah.
Never heard of Lost Horizon, but yeah, I probably should have.
Now you know what I feel like.
The original
You
is
know idea what they're talking about. I feel bad.
the original is from 37, and the remake is 73. Nice.
That's nice.
It's okay.
Shut
Ah,
up.
fuck off, you soulless heathen.
Yeah,
It's all right.
you have no heart.
How to map the human heart. There we go. So now I've got some photos to upload here. All right, cool.
I really disliked Charles Bronson's role in this. It was so it took me out of it.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean,
if he would have
idiot,
stayed
something- the way he
back,
talks.
it would have been fine. But yeah, it's
He had to have the hero shot there, being the last one off the ground. Because it's Burt Lancaster. I do believe Lancaster plays the same character in the other film. And no, he's not. No, he's not. Hold on. Shit. I forget who plays him in the other film, but he doesn't go.
yeah.
Still, this is the better of the two films. What is the purpose of the white band around the headgear?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
That's untrue. There's no way they would have put anything that would glow in the night. That would be
Yeah, they'll be
walking
easily
targets.
seen in the night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there would be
that
walking
irritated
targets.
me.
Yeah, there's no way they would have had white bands all over their heads. There is absolutely no tactical reason. And trust me, dude, I know these guys who go into these specialized commando units. They are insanely good. They are insanely good. Like, we have our own SEAL team. These motherfuckers are crazy. They are crazy. I was in, let me tell you a personal story. Now, I ran basic training as a sergeant. Okay. It's about 16 weeks. One of those weeks is supposed to be field operations, meaning you have to get out of your base to possibly a different type of location. We were in the desert at the time. They took us to a more lush area to do more field work. That means camouflage, walking, like specialty walking, as in know how to walk in a terrain where you're less likely to be detected. That sort of a thing. Nighttime strategies, setting up ambushes. We were engineers, so setting up traps, claymores, all that stuff. At the same time we were there, we were on a nighttime star navigating lesson that I did. I suddenly hear this sound. You're like, and it's like it literally happens and then it stops. And suddenly I was in a little semicircle, and suddenly behind me I see this guy on the floor doing the old caterpillar walk on the floor,
Low crawl, right? Yeah.
The Indian shimmy, right? Technically super quiet, and he was just moseying along, and I was like, who the fuck is running a training op here while I'm doing this fucked up lesson? And come to find out, when we got back to the base, there was not a SEAL team, but one of those commando units, specialized commando units that were training at the time. And I knew the crew leader. He was in basic training with me, and he was already like an officer. And I was like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, yeah, I'm a man or training up. It's like, which hill? And he pointed at the hill I just come through from. And I told him, your guys are fucking insane. And he said, yes.
Yes.
They are. I told him they're crazy good. I can only hear like a rustle. And it was like, who was it? Because he wanted to know who was making noise. And I was like, I don't know. I saw a body on the floor shimmying through the terrain, and then he just disappeared into the bushes. And he said, well, fine, that's fine. He wanted to know who the guy who's making noise was.
Yeah, so you could smoke his ass.
Here's the explanation for the white band.
Well, they're saying identification is what Alpha's talking about. But I still don't think they would have worn white.
No.
Too easy.
No,
it's for the movie.
Some of them were wearing, the people who were the people in the Mercedes, which was Yoni Netanyahu, Sammy, and a few other guys. They did not dress up like Idi Amin, but they did have they did do like a camouflage blackface, basically blackface, but you know. It's not the racist.
Oh, you see that when they're on the
It's a
plane. Gerry
tactical one.
found that hilarious that one of the guys is doing blackface on the plane.
No. That never happened. They didn't pose as Idi Amin, but they do have the blackface as a tactic. Everybody had it.
Because of camouflage. It's either one or it's because they're trying to disguise themselves as a Ugandan.
But
which, just to point out, is predominantly black.
Yeah, the point of the matter is they hired a private seamstress and they signed her on this basic NDA, okay? And she worked for a day and a half sewing up a camouflaged soldier uniform with the tag that they had back then. It wasn't a full-on flag, but in the I saw like a little recreation of it. They put on an actual Ugandan flag, which probably wasn't prevalent at the time, but the uniform was a camo type thing, which the Israeli army does not use. We don't use any camo uniform. We use like an olive one.
OD. So we're at the end of this movie. Let's get back into this. Sure. This is the final scene of Netanyahu. He was actually killed on the ground, and they took him up into the plane. They didn't have this big dramatic moment in the plane. But I am again going to point out that Major David Grutt in this film is the one who begins the singing, which is played by the technical advisor, Aaron Epali, who's a really good actor. And he actually served, like I said, like you did in the IDF. And I have his picture here. This is him in The Mummy, 1999. And this is him actually just before his death. And as I recall, he died of cancer. So And they're all on the plane and mourning this soldier, the one soldier who was killed in combat. The other film, Richard Dreyfuss plays the part of him. And I don't even remember the other film very well. This is the movie I remember. And that's James Wood on the left, man. Look how young he was, dude.
Young, has glasses. There's, by the way, if you're in one of those units, you're not wearing any glasses.
Yeah. In real life,
it's like a pilot. And you know what? Some people go on the pilot's course, and when they get ejected, they join one of those commando units. And they sometimes get ejected from that too. But, you know, some of them actually get to be like, do basic training when they're not 18. They're almost at their 20s because they got rejected in like flight course. Then they went to do one of those special units. And we had a few of them back then, especially in 74. Now we have so many and they're very specialized. Some of them are like urban commandos.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do want to point out historically, the only reason why there was any straggling that took place, it took them an hour to refuel the planes to get them back up in the air. And that's actually the only reason why they straggled at all. It was because they had to refuel the planes.
Well, technically they started refueling it, and then they had the call that Ehud Barak secured fuel in Nairobi. So instead of filling up to the brim,
fully filling up, they ended
flying,
up.
They just tipped it, and that's why they made the 59 minutes instead of going a little bit over. But
I didn't like it either, Snort. This is the better film.
There was a moment that the gunfire did subside at one point because they did hit everything that was there to hit. They didn't see them. They only saw the big tower, but there were people downstairs in like sandbag makeshift, defense units. And because they shot enough RPGs and enough firepower, they managed to kill everybody. They just didn't realize it at a certain point because they were shooting so much. When they stopped for a little bit to reload and stuff, they realized, well, nobody's shooting back. But
once you don't hear the shooting back,
they did know Idi Amin and extra forces are on the way. So they were like, okay, nobody's shooting at us. Let's take everybody out and go.
So just going to point out, there were 7 hijackers. 5 of them were Palestinians. 2 were Germans. They had over 100 Ugandan soldiers that were there. And there was 100 Israeli commandos that were sent. The casualties or losses, this is crazy. Only 1 commando was killed, Netanyahu. 5 soldiers were wounded. 7 hijackers were killed, all 7. 45 soldiers there, Ugandan soldiers, were killed. And there was between 11 and 30 Ugandan aircraft that were destroyed.
Yes.
And there were 4 hostages killed if you include Dora Bloch. And 10 of them were wounded that survived.
It's pretty impressive. The whole operation is pretty impressive. But like any of these high risk, high reward operations, it had faults. It had moments where it was a little bit bleak and nobody knew what's going on, and that sort of a thing. And it, for the most part, like I said, there were moments when they took off that they didn't know if the plane would actually hit the air before everything kind of started. But yeah.
So I thought I'd show some photos.
Atomic hand grenades. No.
There you go. This is post the rescue.
And you know what's the frightening thing? Shimon Peres said, "Well, we're gonna win the next 4 elections."
Yeah.
And that did
Here's
not
a great
happen.
photo.
That did not happen.
There's some great photos right here.
Man.
I don't know what I did, but you're welcome.
No, dude, these commandos were really celebrated.
Rightfully so.
Oh my goodness, look at those Elvis Presley sideburns there in the center bottom.
Oh, dude, 70s in Israel was sideburn heaven.
Really?
Sideburn heaven.
That's
I
great.
remember watching old movies and stuff. It's oh my God. I wonder if I can get a not clip, but a picture. Let me see.
And they were allowed to have sideburns like that in the military?
Oh my God. It wasn't a fair fight. The IDF was using atomic hand grenades.
No.
Oh,
Idi Amin said so. It had to have happened.
It's so
Right.
crazy. The fact that the grenade thing was an issue, they literally said it in the movie, and it was like heavily stressed. Do not use grenades, and unless it's the absolute final result, and that's the team that goes in to save the hostages, because they knew if the one grenade would have gone off, that would have been like 5-6 casualties just from the shrapnel.
Easily.
And then plus the wounded, which would be even more of an issue than the dead, because the dead you could just
Although you are trained in
put
the
on
military,
a hole.
the best place to be when a grenade goes off is laying flat on the ground.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, physics does something interesting. When the grenade goes off, it doesn't blow outward. Because of the ground, it causes the explosion to go downward and then push upward. So all the frags go upward at a 45-degree angle.
And then when the problem is, it's sort of an arc. It does go down a little bit, but goes down like 10,
it's because
15,
it's gravity.
20 feet. Yeah,
it's
gravity.
The yield is 15 feet, and after 15 feet, it begins to arc downward because 15 feet is the kill radius of a single fragmentary grenade. So
okay, so can we all agree that the grenades weren't atomic?
They were nuclear. They were clearly nuclear.
They were nuclear.
Nuclear. Sorry, I'm not an uneducated heathen. I forgot to pronounce it like an uneducated heathen. If I remember correctly, the makers of Victory of Entebbe didn't even try to do the IDF uniforms correct, and the C-130s were obviously American National Guard, slightly repainted. But both films, I think, kind of screwed up on the uniforms. I think both films did. Nuclear. That's how my friend Dr. John Brandenburg says it. So does Don Ecker. Nuclear.
How it channels rocket
Benny Johnson says it
that
too.
way. It has to be correct.
See, this is a movie.
Look at
from
those sideburns.
77 sideburns, and the guy from at the back.
Yeah.
So big sideburns.
And he's like,
very
but you said
actually.
sideburns.
Yes.
I drew my attention. You mashugana.
Mashugana. Oh, man.
Once again, I have to point out my family's Jewish. I'm the only Irish Catholic out of a family of 6 Jews. All my siblings. So, let's see. Once again, I love having you on here because you're so much fun. I love hanging out with you. But on top of that, you are a veteran, whether you like to admit to it or not. You're a veteran
of the
IDF. And I think that's wonderful that, you are from an ally of the United States. And even though I want to go over this sometime with you, that incident where a U.S. ship was, the incident where the U.S. ship was struck and Americans were killed by Israeli firepower. and it's one of those. It is a bad moment in history, and there's a debate or argument as to why it happened. Was it an accident, or was it done because secrecy was essential and there was a fear that it could get out? But I've always believed it was an accident.
What year was it?
Hit. Oh my God, it was around 70. It was 60s.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. It was after the 6-Day War.
The USS Liberty. It was 1967 during the 6-Day War.
During the 6-Day War? Then that's
it was during.
That's
Friendly Fire. June 8th of 67, and
Friendly Fire.
Yeah,
Friendly Fire, heat of battle. There was a lot.
They said there was confusion over who the ship belonged to, Israel led into it.
There was a lot of intel going up to the 6-Day War that they knew the war would happen, and the Russian military, the USSR military in the Black Sea had ships there that they knew have left ports and going down the straits into the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean fleet, the American Mediterranean fleet, was moving pieces towards Egypt, and there were moving pieces from into the Red Sea. Supposedly that didn't happen, because what Egypt did was the casus belli, the war kind of reason was they kind of blocked the Tiran Straits, which is Yemen, basically, where all the pirates are. But they blocked it, and that was the cause for war, basically. And they thought, well, we've got a coalition of Arab states here, so we better go. I'm telling you, you only mentioned it. I've never heard about that case. But back then, if it was during or just after the 6-Day War, it would have been a shoot to kill and find out about it later.
Yeah, mentality. Apologize later. Yeah, I get you. But yeah, it's the USS Liberty. There was a TV movie that came out in 2002 called USS Liberty Dead in the Water. Mm. It's a documentary. It's not a dramatic film. So I probably should talk about it sometime, because it's a fascinating.
You have to remember
situation.
Something really, really important. Our allies up to 73 were the French and English, not the United States. And it only started to change when Nixon went into office, and they had that relationship with what's his face?
Kissinger.
Oh, now I forgot it. Kissinger. So Kissinger was the guy who was like, okay, let me talk to China because it's beneficial to us. Let me talk to this guy because it's beneficial to us. Let me talk to India. Let me talk to Israel, and get them to go on the Vietnam surplus, basically. Because what they did was everything that was in Vietnam was like, oh, we can resell it to our Israeli friends. So the F4s were dumped on us. It really helped us. The M16s, everything kind of went into that sort of a mode. And that's where relationships really were tightened between the U.S. and Israel. In 67, it was mostly French and English.
Well, the English actually had territory down there that they were still controlling.
Yeah. Their interest was the Suez Canal, because Nasser did not play ball with them at all. Plus, he was doing the blockade. It actually affected them too, because it's a international trading route. But instead of going to war, they were like, the Israelis are going to do it. They're already like, it was going to be a win-win for the French and English, because if they would have succeeded, no more Israel. That's one problem off the table. And if we were succeeded, we were the ones who were technically military controlling the Straits or the Suez Canal. That means free trading route. Bing, bang, boom.
This is true.
The bankers are up.
This is true, Alpha. The Israelis had already paid for it, and the French stopped shipping. And so they went out and they took those ships. And that's a fact. We paid for this.
Yeah.
Goofy shit. Fuck around and find out.
It wasn't a loan. We actually
fully paid
for it. Yeah.
Yep. Alpha said something interesting here that he would like to tell the story sometime about his cool grenade story. I have 2 funny fucked up grenade stories. The first one's so simple. When we did the grenade training with the live grenade, I actually did stick my Kevlar slightly up above the wall because I wanted to see the grenade go off. And I told the instructor, I said, we're beyond the yield of this thing. And I know that. It's like, if anything, it'll pepper my helmet, and he did one of those grab me down, like, what are you doing, you lunatic?
Yeah.
The second one is
ours was in a slope. So when you threw, the actual grenade
would roll away
below you about 10, 12 feet. So as long as you threw it, then you're okay. There was a guy who dropped it, and they had to do the exercise where the officer picks him up and throws him out of the that little bunkers, like sand bunker they have. They took him out and throw him and lay down on top of him. And by the way, when he got up,
well, you hear stories about that in the military during training. Idiots that throw the pin instead of the grenade.
It's crazy.
It's like, how can you be that fucking stupid? But
dude, there was a guy who was doing a live when I was there. I was stationed somewhere else, but in the base where we were supposed to go and do the training, the guy was supposed to they were on a moving truck. He was supposed to take the pin out and drop it, because the APC would have easily dealt with it with the shielding. And he took the pin out, and he, instead of throwing it, he dropped it, and it exploded, and both his hands were done. Yeah, it was gnarly.
Fucking dumb. Gnarly. Man. So we are wrapped. Good show today. That was fun. Let's see.
End up with a nice little tame story.
Yeah. I did have another grenade story, but it wasn't a live grenade. Go ahead. It was during training, and the lane instructor was told about my having played semi-pro baseball and that I can hit anything. And so he calls me out, and I go walking up like, what's going on? And he says, I was told that you can throw and hit anything. And I said, oh man, because it was from some of the other guys that told him, yeah, I get Cassell to do it. He can throw that grenade and hit anything. And so I go up there, and he says, I'll tell you what, if you can get that grenade into the window of the deuce and a half, that was a good about 30 yards away. He says, if you can get it into the vehicle window, I'll give you the day off. I'll sign you off. You're done with the lane. You won't have to do any of the other lanes. And I went, oh, heck yeah, I'll do that. And they give you, if you know grenade training, you squat down behind the wall, squat down, pull pin. They give you the command, pull pin, extend arm, stand, release. And you have that split second you get to throw. And that was my 1 second, split second. It's not even a full second, it's a split second of looking at what I was throwing at, threw the grenade, drop back down. And then I heard everybody go, whoa, oh, fuck, shit. Everybody says it. I sit up and I go, did I hit the window? And the guy says, here you go. Signs off. He goes, get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, did I hit it? Did I hit it? And the guy turns to me and says, dude, you took the mannequin's head off in the truck. And I just went, I did one of those cocky things. Well, of course I did.
Of course.
Like I meant to do that. It was pure fucking luck.
Of course.
So that was at Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Lost in the Woods, here in Missouri. I'm about 70 miles from there, where I'm at right now. Yeah, 70 miles. And I swore I'd never live in this state when I was in the Army. I said, this is the worst state I've ever been in. The storms are insane here. And I'm like, I do not want to live in a state that has storms like this. Raised my kid here, still live here. I'm going to die here.
Yeah, now he's making me come live there. That's what he does to the ones that he loves.
Tornado land?
Yeah.
I made a meme a few years back.
With a basement full of spiders and cats.
I put a photo up of a recluse spider. I said, this is the Missouri state bird.
What was the big one in the garage that I luckily didn't see? But you saw it.
It was a jumping spider. They're fine.
They jump.
You know. Yeah, I know, but they're not even really spiders, in my opinion. They look like cute little hairy things. They're adorable. The ones that I don't like are spindly leg spiders. They're the ones who get to me. They're the ones who cause me nightmares.
Too many fucking legs.
Die, vicious vermin.
Yeah. Burn it, burn it. Get like one of those aerosol cans and put a Bic lighter in front of it like a little mini flamethrower. So that's it, guys. We're going to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I can already hear
wolf
my kids
spiders
going off at the background.
Yes. Wolf spiders in particular, Alpha, are friends to people. If you've got one of those,
kill spiders.
I never kill wolf spiders. I'll kill other spiders, especially recluses. I'll kill the shit out of them because they're poisonous. But it is so funny because Anima finds this funny. I've been called a spider magnet, and specifically recluses are just attracted to me. And I will be in a room with over 1,000 square feet, and I look up and there's a recluse above me, and I'm like, you have 1,000 square feet where you're safe, and you chose to be in the one spot that's going to cause you to be murdered. You dumb fucking spider. But I had a relationship with this little wolf spider. He would like watch me, and he would go up on the wall and he'd sit and look at me, and I'd look back at him and say, hey buddy, because I like wolf spiders. They kill all the other spiders. They eat everything. And then right as winter was ending, one day he's crawling on the floor next to me, goes to the back door, and I look up and oh, you went out. And I opened the door for him. And he went out, turned around and looked at me like, fuck you. And I shut the door on him. Like, see you. No, that guy was going to die.
See you next Tuesday.
So that was funny. I let him out. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thanks for being here, Mephisto.
Let's go.
I appreciate you being part of the show today. Anima, I hope you had a good time. Martin, hope you had a good time. And by the way, it looks like Father Weems approved of this episode. Thank you, Father.
Good.
So did Kristen Stewart.
Kristen Stewart liked it? Oh, my. Hey,
oh my.
Also,
please. Thank you.
I wish she would have stayed that innocent little girl. Now she's an angry lesbian. Holy shit.
I know. Martin Acosta Santana with beautiful hair. There he is. That's Martin with beautiful hair. He loved the show. We're out of here. Bye, guys. That's the end, folks.
Yo, go.